Which fountain pens are the most versus least economic for people who spend a lot of time drawing and writing? Okay, so this is kind of answered this in generalities before, maybe more specifically. It's hard for me to remember, honestly, which questions I've duplicated sometimes these days. So forgive me if this is a duplicated one, but I'll try to answer it in a little different way. This really depends on the individual. Because hand size really matters a ton. And I'm not an artist, so as far as drawing goes, I don't necessarily have like super specific feedback about the drawing versus writing, but I can talk kind of in both of those. So generally speaking, if you're talking about, using a lot of time doing whatever it is with your pen, usually a lighter pen is better. So if you have something that's really heavy, it's going to weigh down on your hand, you're going to get fatigued whether you're drawing or writing. So that is something to reduce hand fatigue. Go with a little bit lighter pen. It doesn't have to be super light, but I would say something under 25 grams would probably be ideal. And the grip is really going to matter a lot too. So if you have a pen with a really with a thinner grip than what your hand is comfortable with, then you're going to be likely to cramp up. So that's part of it. You want to get a pen that generally is a little bit thicker in its grip, or at least has a grip that's comfortable for you. For me, I want a thicker pen because I have large hands, and if I hold something really thin, I'm going to get really cramped up and fatigued if I write for too long with it. So I like something a little bigger. A heavier pen doesn't bother me, oddly enough, because I have such large hands, but I'm speaking in generalities here a little bit. And then related to the grip too, the slickness of the grip is going to matter a lot, because if you're writing or drawing for a long period of time, if you got something with, say, a slick metal grip or a really slick plastic, and it's really rounded and stuff like that, the more you have to kind of grip tightly on the pen to keep it from slipping around in your hand, it's going to create hand fatigue there as well. So you want something that's got a really comfortable grip for you, which I realize if you're shopping for pens purely online, like you may very well be doing on my site, you're like, well, Brian, what the heck? I can't really compare the grip. So what am I going to do about that? Well, it's part of why we have a tool that we developed called the Pen Plaza. At least if you have pens that you know and are really familiar with, we take very exact overhead view side-by-side images of all the pens that we carry, and we put them side by side so you can really clearly compare the grip, and we actually line up all the pens at where the grip starts, so you can very clearly see one grip as it compares to another, and that helps. I know it's not the same as holding the pen, but you can always do that. And then we got a pretty generous return policy in terms of if you're holding it, if you ink it up and we have to clean it out and stuff like that, we do a restocking fee. But if you're just holding the pen and trying to get used to the grip and you're not altering the pen in any way, we'll take the pen back with no charge whatsoever. So that's a way you can always try it out, especially for lower price pens. It's not a bad way to go. Yes, so the material matters a lot. The grip, slick metal is something you want to stay away from, unfortunately, if you're writing, or drawing for long periods of time. And even that's kind of a preference thing. It's going to just depend on your individual style. And then, you don't want something with a really short grip. I've talked about pens before, like the Faber-Castell Ambition and stuff like that, that have just a tiny little grip. That can get a little uncomfortable, but you want something that is just generally comfortable for you. And then related to the material, the most comfortable ones I find are ones that materials are hygroscopic, and what that means is it can absorb moisture. So that's part of why I'm such a big fan of the Visconti Homo Sapiens. Now granted, it's a very expensive pen. That's a reason why ebonite is such a revered material in the fountain pen community, not just because it's a vintage throwback, but because the material actually helps to wick away moisture from your fingers. Celluloid is also very similar in that way. So if you're holding any pens made of these materials, it's actually going to feel a little grippier in your hand because it's actually not building up oils on your fingers and then causing it to move around. It's kind of absorbing some of that. So that's something to take into account. Of course, if you have a pen that's got any kind of texture to it, I'm thinking like the Lamy 2000, it's got a metal grip, but it's a textured metal grip. That can be really good to give you something to bite onto. Or if you have a pen with a rubber grip, like the Lamy Studio in stainless steel, that can also be really helpful there. Casein is another material that's like in vintage pens. I don't have a single casein pen, but that's another thing, though of course that's got its own issues that can help to wick away moisture as well. And then generally, plastic pens, acrylic, resin, whatever you want to call them, they're usually pretty good. As long as you get something where the grip is fairly comfortable for you, it's not going to slip around too badly in your hand. It's not going to be as, luscious as some of the ebonites and stuff like that, but it's going to be generally pretty good. When it comes to the nibs, this is really where preference comes in a lot. So I really like smooth nibs. I find that the smoother the nib, the less fatiguing it is for me. Other people feel very, very differently. They feel like if they have a really smooth nib, they're having to grip extra hard to keep it from slipping all over the place. I really think it's a preference thing. So you might like a little bit of bite on your nib. You know, a lot of that will come to paper too, but you get a little bit of bite. That way you're feeling like you're not having to try to control it quite as much. So as far as that goes, it's going to be purely a preference thing. I think most people who do drawing a lot tend to go with finer nibs so that you can get some fine details and cross hatching and stuff like that. Or, you know, like a flex pen or something like that, and that's kind of a whole other beast. But for writing, you know, it's really going to be, it's really kind of all over the place. I think most people generally kind of prefer fine nibs. That's the most popular nib size of everything that we sell, generally speaking. So some pens, specific pens that I have that I know people kind of traditionally like. One for drawing is the Lamy's. You know, Lamy Joy is not a super popular pen, and I don't even have a nib on this one. That's why it looks all black. But the Lamy Joy is a longer pen. You can actually post it. Not a lot of people know that. It's a little weird posted, but I know specifically Liz Steele, who's a very popular urban sketcher I've interviewed here before. She loves the Lamy Joy. She has one in white, and she loves to use it because she likes the balance of it and things like that. So that's her pen of choice. But a lot of people use the Safari and the All-Star, the Vista, things like that. All very similar format to this, not quite as long, but that's a popular one for drawing. You can swap different nibs on it, gives you some options there. Another one is the Platinum Carbon Desk Pen. So this, again, is similar to the Lamy Joy in kind of that, like, you know, desk pen type of design to it. You can get this one in an extra fine. This is a Japanese extra fine, so it gets really fine on there. But I like this one a lot too, so that might be worth checking out. And it's inexpensive as well. It's only like 12 bucks or something. The Pilot Falcon is one that I know can be popular for both writing and drawing because it's got a very soft nib that you can get some good, you know, line variation out of it. So this is generally a pretty popular one, a little pricier there. Noodler's Ahab, of course any of the Noodler's flex pens you can use for drawing or writing, but I personally kind of prefer the Ahab just because for me it's a little more comfortable pen to hold, but that might be a good one for you to check out. And then for writing, of course, there's lots of good answers. I have pens that are my preferences. Some of my, you know, all-time fallbacks are, you know, the Pilot Custom 74. Of course, I love that pen in blue, of course. But just really smooth nib. The balance is really nice, even when it's posted. You know, some pens that are, especially that are this long, tend to be really back weighted when they're posted, but it's very, very comfortable for me. I've written many, many, many hours with this pen, and it's a tried and tested one for me. Lamy 2000, of course, is a very popular one. I enjoy this one very much. It can take a little bit to get used to it first, but I use an extra fine nib, and then I've got a medium one as well. That I enjoy both of those. And then another one that I keep coming back to is my Visconti Homo Sapiens. Of course, not everybody can, you know, spend this much on a pen. I totally understand that. It's something that I have very much worked up to over the last 6.5 years before I got one. But it's got that kind of grippiness. I love the cap action. So I end up using this a lot for quick notes. I've actually been carrying this around in my pocket for, gosh, last month now. So I take it with me everywhere in a fine nib, and I just enjoy it as an everyday pen. So nice solid pen, very, very durable as well. That's why I'm carrying it around. And I carry it around in a little leather sleeve here. So that's what I've been using it for. And then another one that I forgot to grab, actually, I think I have it right here, is the Edison Pens. So I of course, I'm affiliated with Edison with the Nouveau Premier, but this ends up being a great pen if you like a nib with just a little hint of bite to it. Edison's are really great. Of course, I love the Premier, you know, helped to design it and stuff like that years ago. And then the Collier as well actually ends up being very popular. It's actually a really pretty fat pen. It doesn't post or anything, but it's one of the most popular Edison pens out there. So another very cool one. And then I want to give an honorable mention to, you know, the other Lamy pens, the All-Star, the Pilot Metropolitan, which I'm also a huge fan of. Not necessarily one I like to write with for a long period of time because the grip's a little thin for me, but it's a great price very durable, and so that I know is an extremely popular pen. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't mention you know, a Jinhao pen with a Goulet nib on it. Honestly, for the price, it's pretty tough to beat that. And you know, Jinhao 159 is a little heavy. Those pens tend to be a little bit on the heavy side, but a lot of people love to swap those nibs out and put them on there. That's part of why we offer it, and ends up working really well. So hopefully that's something exciting for you. Of course, you know, leave any comments if you have any of your own opinions as well. It'd be helpful to share.